Namaste and good day, everyone. Today I'm here, your host Vinay Khanduri, with this episode of NBP Hotseat. As you all know, India is gearing up for a nuclear clean energy transition, and nuclear is specified as an important pillar along with the renewables to achieve the decarbonization and development objectives of the country. Today we have with us eminent Vice Admiral N.M. Nadaph of Walchandnagar Industries to discuss on the emerging trends in the Indian nuclear sector and supply chain preparedness. After an illustrious career in the Indian Navy and having successfully delivered nuclear-powered submarine Arihant to the country, Admiral Nadaph joined the corporate world to lead the nuclear business vertical of Walchandnagar Industries. And currently, he's nuclear business advisor at the reputed Indian corporate house, Walchandnagar Industries. Over the years, this corporate house has emerged as an important pillar of the Indian nuclear supply chain. We are delighted to share with you that Admiral Nadaph is also on the advisory board of INBP Conference 2023. Pleasure to have you, Admiral Nadaph, on this show, and we welcome you for this episode of NBP Hot Seat.
Thank you very much.
So, Admiral Nadaph, we understand that India is perhaps one of the few countries, right, uh, in the world which has a consistent supportive policy on nuclear. There are like 22 operational reactors and then 21 more reactors in the pipeline, and further 20 more reactors are proposed for the development. So overall, it makes something like 45 plus gigawatt of nuclear capacity. So what is your assessment? What direction is it taking now in your perspective, Admiral Nadaph?
India is committed to carbon-free India by 2070. This is a commitment by our Prime Minister to the international body. And also India's economy is growing very fast. So therefore, there will be a large amount of electrical power which will be required. Now, Government of India has planned to provide this electricity through the renewables such as solar, wind, hydel, and nuclear power. And also currently, Government of India has published a hydrogen policy, that is a national hydrogen policy, which will minimize the use of the things like naphtha for generating the hydrogen. So therefore, as we just mentioned, the nuclear power with about 22 operational plants and in the pipeline 21 new build projects and 21 more proposed reactors, India is now well poised for setting up a substantially increased nuclear power. Now, apart from our standardized 700 megawatts of PSWRs, the diversified resources also being planned, such as 1000 megawatts of VVRs from Russia, 1650 megawatts of EDF from France, 1000 megawatts of Westinghouse reactors, and also we are thinking of introducing SMRs, small
Yes.
modular reactors, in our country so that we can meet the requirements of the power in coming decade or so.
Fantastic, fantastic. Note that. And then Admiral Nadaph, you come from Walchandnagar Industries, right? So, and Walchandnagar Industries is an important pillar of the Indian nuclear supply chain. So, when it comes to the speed of execution and sourcing and everything, right? So, how do you assess the capabilities of the Indian nuclear supply chain?
Yeah, this is a good question. The processes are very important in procurement and installation of nuclear reactors. Now, fortunately for us, the procurement procedures instituted by NPCIL are good and the orders are being placed as per the overall plan of NPCIL for all the reactors under procurement and construction. The experience gained by the NPCIL and the industry so far has resulted in better quality product and lesser time for construction. Industry can enhance their production capabilities once the orders are assured to them in future.
Very well said. Very well said. There are, as you mentioned, that there are, new emerging reactor technology, for example, SMRs, and they look quite promising for their cost and schedule advantages and wide spectrum of uses across varied industrial applications and clean hydrogen generation. How is industry gearing up to take up this challenge? Because this is a new technology, and then entire things have to be, taken up across the value chain.
Yes. For the Indian industry, to take SMRs construction seriously, there are few following prerequisites. Now, these prerequisites are the selection of the proven design of SMR by Department of Atomic
Yes.
Energy, and keeping in mind the end users, because end users are very important. Now, the immediate and long-term planning of the Indian nuclear power, as recommended to the government, we should recommend this SMR designs to Government of India, and some designs, if required to be imported, that also we should lay a stress on, because whatever knowledge we have got has got a limitations, and
Yes.
new technologies are emerging, and therefore we should try and exploit those new technologies which are good for our country. Now, government policy on SMR, setting up allotment of funds for it, and the tie-up immediately by the government of India through a IGA, intergovernmental agreement, if some designs are to be imported. So therefore, the established likely users and the sites, it is important, sites
Yes.
for the SMR, these also should be finalized in the near future. Now, it's also important that we should set up a first of kind of the new design, each design, and obtain the operating experience while planning for the other sites. This is another prerequisite. Then address all issues related to SMR technology developments, such as fuel supply, radioactive waste management, grid connectivity, generation of public opinion in favor of SMR.
Yes. Very
That's very
important. Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Then we have to have proper financial management and participation by PSUs such as NTPC, or if we intend to involve the private sector to invest into it, then we'll have to start working on it. And towards that, we need to amend Atomic Energy Act if private ownership of the nuclear plants
Mm.
is to be intended. Now, Government of India and DIE need to take the industry along with them while above decisions are being made, so that industry can effectively participate and make the SMR plan successful.
Quite insightful indeed. Quite insightful. So, and you come from a background in the Indian Navy and have also worked on, the nuclear powered submarine project, uh, which is based on sort of, compact PWR technology. So what complexity, you are the one, who has got hands-on experience on this project. So what sort of complexity lie in developing and repurposing this technology for some future Indian SMR? And what timeline you foresee for an Indian SMR hitting the ground at commercial scale, sir?
Well, when we started to dream about the making an Indian nuclear submarine, we had one thought in our mind, that is totally indigenization. We want this particular very highly secretive weapon platform to be under the direct control of Indian Navy or in atomic energy. And that's why we work together, atomic energy and Indian Navy together. Today, I'm very happy to tell you that through this submarine construction program, India has developed the indigenous capability to undertake design, engineering, construction of complex nuclear power plant, and the infrastructure which is required to construct the submarine, and also the industry which will support as a supply chain. So the so now I'm happy to tell you that the entire infrastructure for the entire program is available. Industry is well geared up to meet the supply chain. And if a design of the SMR is available, then it may be possible to use the same industrial infrastructure and construct the SMR quickly. I foresee that the first of the kind reactor could be constructed in about 5 to 6 years and subsequently 3 to 4 years based on the experience gained and improved industrial infrastructure. So that is possible.
So just one additional question here. As you told me that Atomic Energy Department and then Indian Navy were closely working. So sort of was there some sort of task force arrangement or the usual departments of both organizations were working
No, there is a much more
at that time?
deeper working on this.
Okay,
The
okay,
first and the foremost is that Indian Navy started sending officers like me to
okay,
Baba Atomic Research Center.
okay.
And we started way back in 12th BRC training school batch, Admiral
Mm-hmm.
Gurmeet Singh.
Yes.
Thereafter, I joined in 1973. And since then, the host of naval officers are joining. We then
Okay,
worked in BRC. There is a
okay,
separate team which was there, a
okay.
very classified team. And BRC, we worked together for 15 years to understand the technological details and aspects of it. And that's how we could manage to undertake the design engineering and the construction very swiftly. So the
That's
whole cooperation was between the many organizations, and DRDO came in for the missile development, and our naval teams for the submarine hull construction,
I
etc.
got it.
So it was a unique, great experience of a great teamwork.
Exciting and quite interesting. But recently or rather, 2 years back or something like that. Even some of the governments across in the world, for example, UK, they also sort of announced that they will be ramping up their nuclear capacity, new builds, by having a task force, and they will work like in a similar line like their health department work during COVID pandemic. That's quite important.
Yes, yes. We learned a lot from
Yeah.
open literature which was there published by
Yes.
USA as well as UK,
Yeah.
and that helped us quite a bit to undertake these designs.
Yeah, so actually, but clean energy is really, as important as fighting COVID pandemic now, because climate change is real, like, and then for, for example, the case of India, by releasing something like 2.7 billion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere, we are now third largest polluters in the world, and after China and the USA. And of course, somebody say that our per capita CO2 consumption is low, but that doesn't make sense. For example, because asthma or something, cancer will not hit our citizens, citing such regions. Hey, Mr. Asma, please don't hit us. Our per capita CO2 consumption is lower, or so on that line, right? So really, when our cities are finding places among the top, five top, five among the top 10 worst polluters, and then nine among the 20 worst polluters. So it's not a good situation for us. So it is an urgent requirement that we should be beefing up, our commercialization of clean technology for a cleaner environment, and also to without jeopardizing the reliability of our power supply. So that's why nuclear becomes important. So don't you think that speed of deployment needs to be much faster if we really want to get rid of fossil fuel based capacities?
Undoubtedly, that the speed, doing the things in time and at the right time is very, very important. Now the elements in this particular thing is that the decision making.
Yes.
We possibly need to improve our decision making system, starting from the government down the line, everybody. And once we take our decisions in time and proper decisions, substantiated by necessary wherewithals, resources, etc., then only this is possible. By
True.
just saying by slogans, this will not help.
Yes.
You have to act. You have
Yes.
to act and you have to take decisions. Avoid controversies because
Yes.
not many people think that okay, either SMR or bigger reactors, and these
Mm.
controversies will keep on going and
True.
going and going,
True.
and nothing will come out. We will be
True.
just standing still for years together
Yes.
without doing any work. So
True.
therefore, such controversies must be dealt with, and must be decision must be taken on these particular controversies. And the politics, the
True.
biggest hurdle,
Yes.
many times, the politics, whether this is to be given to this or priority is to be given to this and all that kind of thing. So all these, if we restrict ourselves and we take a decisions in time, proper decisions, then things will move fast. I can tell you the industry is quite geared up. Industry wants to do it fast, and the industry has done it. Industry has
Yes.
demonstrated, and therefore the construction periods have shrunk only because the industry and the planners in the DAE, they are doing well, and
True.
therefore we can do it.
True. So all stakeholders have to come together, and
Yes,
and in that sense, if we see that climate this initiative is a global effort, right? And international nuclear community, not just Indian nuclear community, but international nuclear community should also realize this and collaborate more closely, right? More often, and more closely, more often, and across different spectrum of the things, and perhaps they are also realizing this, and that cooperation is the way forward. Some of like if we see Korean and US companies are now there are several collaboration arrangement that they are going through, and uh, uh, this is good, for the mutual good of all the countries and for the entire planet. Some of the American, European, and Russian SMR programs are progressing quite well, and for the further deployment at commercial scale. So, what is your assessment about a parallel track that India can take up to collaborate with international partners for SMR technologies? And which are the international partners that you see as possibly interested about the Indian nuclear market?
yes, good question. Now, there are few potentially good designs for the Indian requirements. We need to consider Indian requirements.
Yes.
Our own PWR design, because we have already done this for the submarine application, but that need to be converted into a land-based application. And that design, we will have to freeze it quickly, modify it, and get the ARB approval to ensure that we have a design which can be executed. For this design, the layouts and everything will be different. The security, I mean, the safety requirements will be entirely different than submarine application. So therefore, all that has to go into a design, freezing it and making a detailed engineering drawing for enabling it to execute by the industry. So this is one design. Now, if you are still a little more in a hurry, then a similar exercise which has been done by Russians, this is RITM 200 reactor, that is
Yes.
land-based, they have constructed already, and therefore that design can be easily adoptable. And if Russians are willing, the intergovernment agreement can be made so that
Yes.
we can quickly execute that particular design.
Yes. Yes.
The
Really.
second
Yeah. 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 Please.
the second design is a molten salt reactor
Mm-hmm.
using PHWR spent fuel, because this is very attractive. We
Yes.
are having a PHWR, a good number, and we are constructing also. So we have to look at it, the total fuel cycle requirement of the
Mm.
PHWR.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
molten salt reactor uses the spent fuel from the PHWRs, and thereby reducing the radioactivity levels
Yes.
also as an output, and thereby the total fuel cycle investment and the expenditure will be reduced, and
True.
we will be using the spent fuel of the PSWs easily. So therefore, we should try and improve upon it. Government of India, BARC is trying to do that. We are trying to set up a 5 megawatts of salt molten salt reactors at Vizag,
Mm-hmm.
but that is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have to meet the deadline of 1970, I mean
Yes.
2070, then
Yes.
we have to, I think, get a proven design such as
True.
the Moltex.
True.
So that could be one possible candidate, Moltex. Then we are also now talking about the high levels of safety. and therefore passive cooling systems are now being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So the primary system, if it is passive, then we don't have to depend on the electric power. And
Yeah.
if the power failure occurrence takes place, then by its own, by natural passive cooling system, the reactor's decayed removal system will be taken care, and
Yes.
thereby reactor will be safe to operate. So, new scale
Mm-hmm.
USA and partially passive systems of smart South Korea.
Yes.
These designs are promising, and I think we should look at it more objectively.
Really, the Indian
Now,
market has quite huge energy demand and good capacity for the solutions proposed by these SMR companies, and it will go a long way in fighting climate change and propel the growth.
but the decisions have to be made by Indians.
Yes,
Whether we
yes,
want
yes,
to
yes.
get this particular this thing
True, true, true,
reactors from outside, if
true,
we say Atmanirbhar and I will do it only with my design, etc., then you are not going out,
true, true, true,
and
true.
then you will not get the new
Collaboration.
technologies from
Yes,
outside.
yes. Collaboration is very
So,
important.
so Atmanirbharta is very fine. There is
Yes.
no doubt every Indian wants to have this. But looking at the technologies which are better or sometimes
Mm.
useful, more useful to us, we have to go out,
True.
and that decision has to be made.
Yes.
You you,
Very,
you
very
have
important
you
point.
cannot have that particular because intergovernmental agreement.
True,
There is a financial implication of this. There is a cooperative arrangements have to be made.
true.
So the people who matter or who to make a decisions have to consider this. I'm sure they are doing it. It's
Yes.
that we don't know about it. It must be under the process.
Very
And the
important point.
third design which I would like to propose is that G 300 megawatts of PW.
Okay.
This is also
Yes.
quite attractive, and so Indian market is very large. The
Yes.
people from outside are looking for Indian markets. So India somehow has not taken concrete steps. We started discussing this in November 22, and
Mm-hmm.
after that, one or two symposiums, and thereafter, nothing much is happening. Apparently, to us, to
Mm-hmm.
the industry, I'm sure the government of India and the people who matter, they must be seriously considering this, and things will happen. I'm sure. I'm optimistic on this.
Yeah.
Our people are good, and they will do it.
Very important point, Admiral Nadaf. And so now, with this point, now we are moving towards the end of this program. But before we wind up, we would like to have your final words for the audience and nuclear stakeholders.
See, Indian nuclear departments, all departments, starting from the fuel to the design, engineering, construction, procurement, all departments are well geared up, well oiled,
Yeah.
and I have a great trust in the procedures and the formations and activeness of these departments. Industry also well geared up to take up, but the industry will invest more if you want a faster and more and better.
True.
Then industry needs an assured orders
Of
because when
course.
you want to execute, there will be some infrastructure more required, and that infrastructure cannot be justified by just going into L1 criteria.
Mm, yes.
So if L1 criteria continues, then people will invest as and when the orders are coming. Then only they will start investing in, and therefore the faster execution may not be feasible. So we have to take a decisions on this, and we'll have to act positively and decisively so that this program can be made successful.
Quite fantastic discussion, Admiral Nadaf. And it was wonderful to have your insight on the emerging trends in the Indian nuclear power sector and supply chain preparedness to take up this challenge. And thank you very much for taking out your time for this interview. And viewers, with this, we would like to wind up this episode of NBP Hot Seat. For any questions or queries for Admiral Nadaf or NBP, please drop in your message in the comment section below. We will get back to you at the soonest possible. And also stay tuned for our upcoming annual India Nuclear Conference INBP 2023, which is scheduled to be held on 10th and 11th of October this year at Mumbai, India. With this, we are signing off. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you.